G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle, and it's been a while between videos, but I wanted to talk today about the Imperialis Militia, because I've designed a lot of vehicles for the Militia, and don't worry, video on that topic is coming, and I've got a video coming on your conversions. I asked you before Christmas for people to send in their own conversions, talk about them, critique them, and I got literally in the hundreds, so it's a lot to sort through. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen that, that's why, because it's hundreds of emails, which is totally cool. It's a good thing for us. But because I've been building lists for the Militia, and I've run Militia in 30k, I want to talk about a few of the things I've noticed with the list, and because as you would all know if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I have a generally poor opinion of the writing skills of the team. That they don't understand the game that they're writing for. And I want to talk a bit about that today, and also about how that plays into the Militia and how to use the strengths of the list to your advantage. Spoilers, it means just take a ton of Lehman Russes, but we'll get to that. Now, first things first, when it comes to the downloads of the Horus Heresy, you need to go on to Warhammer Community, then you go across to downloads, scroll to the Horus Heresy. You'll have the FAQs and errata first, which, let's face it, aren't worth their salt, because they don't tell you anything. Then you get some additional rules, which, again, doesn't tell you much, just mostly for additional weapons, because they decided to make plastic sprues on the resin units. Of course they did. Then you get to the Legacies of the Age of Darkness, and in here, the Imperialis Militia live. But additional rules to the Militia also live in the Exemplary Battles, in particular the Liberation of Constanix 2. These are all over the shop when it comes to what's in them, but if you're looking for downloads for the Horus Heresy, where different rules are, you have units from Heresy 1, you don't know where they might be, they'll probably be in the Legacies of the Age of Darkness here, especially if it's a super heavy tank, Lord of War, that sort of thing. Now, in the Militia itself, as you go in, there's a lot of rules to the Militia. Some are great, some are bad. One of the ones I really like is the third line rule. The third line affects a lot of the vehicles and such in the army. Now, when they are hit with a weapon, if they're glanced, it actually counts as a pen. So, it means your vehicles are less resilient. But the trade-off is you never, ever, ever give up victory points for losing your vehicles, which is hilarious when you're playing Militia, because you can just spam tanks, which aren't great this edition, but who cares if they die, because it doesn't award anything for dying, which I think is hilarious. And yeah, the trade-off is you're easier to kill. I'm totally cool with that, and I think it's very thematic, and I like that sort of thing. The mechanized unit subtype is a really convoluted subtype. It's basically the same as Dreadnought subtype. For all intents and purposes, very, very similar rules. But like many things in 2.0, they streamlined it by making it way more convoluted than it was last edition. And the Militia unit subtype. Now, Militia have a lot of infantry problems caused by the subtype. For example, if half of the models in here have been removed as casualties, then you don't get to regroup if you fall back for any reason at all. You just continue to run off the table. So you have a 40 model unit, you lose 21, that's it, you can never rally. That's a problem. Additionally, units with the Militia subtype that is falling back and is charged by an enemy, you just get removed. No leadership check, no dice rolled, gone. Just removed from battle. And that can suck, because you might fall back. Remember, the average leadership in this army is leadership 6. It is very easy to fail morale checks in this game, especially in the night fight turns where you're going to be -1 leadership. So leadership 5 in the early game, you get shot by a unit, very easy to fall back. You can get charged by anything. A single model charges into you, bang, unit gone, leaves the table, okay? This is, again, very problematic for an army that's designed to have a lot of infantry, because it doesn't matter if you have massive infantry squads if they're really, really easy to make run, and if they, die. Another one here is that Militia that is not monstrous or mechanized. They get locked in close combat, and another enemy charges you. You immediately have to take a morale check. If the check is failed, then the unit falls back as if it loses combat straight away before any attacks even land. This is really easy to do. You could be two characters charge a unit. It could be two, like, a depleted unit of Marines, 3 guys left out of a tactical squad, charge it while they're locked in combat with another unit. You're making that leadership check. And again, it's going to be whatever negatives there might be. It could be fear-causing units. It could be night fight. You could be doing leadership 4 and no wounds at all have landed on your squad. So infantry in this army are just useless. And I don't think that the people who wrote this game understand just how fragile the infantry are. Now, they try and compensate for this in the provenances, which we'll get to. Now, when it comes to your ward traits and such, none of them are anything to write home about, so don't worry about those. Alien Curios is sort of a funny one. But the Militia Force Commander, this is the key to the army, because you need to take this guy if you want to use provenances. So you're going to be taking them in every force, and the Force Commander, you can do some fun tricks with him, like Iron Halos and Cyber Familiars, things like that. So you can have like 3+ invulnerable saves, you can give him decent war gear, but the problem is he's weapon skill 4, and anything of value that you would want to fight is going to be a lot higher weapon skill, usually 5, 6, and 7. So, yeah, you can do some troll memeing with him with the Cyber Familiar and Iron Halo, but at the end of the day, he is just a basic human, and it does reflect in the fact that he's very, very easy to kill. And I have a problem with it being 100 points, because this is not a 100-point profile. A 100-point profile is a Praetor who's going to have weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 5, strength and toughness of 4, 3 wounds, initiative 5, 4 attacks, leadership 9, or actually 10 on a Praetor, with a 2+ save and a 4+ invul baked in. This guy doesn't have a power weapon, he doesn't have any armor worth writing home about, he doesn't have an invulnerable save. Why are you paying 100 points? And he doesn't have any Legiones Astartes. Instead, he unlocks the provenances. Now, the problem I have with this is, if you want to say that you've got to pay all these points for the provenance, that's fine. How come you don't pay points for Legiones Astartes? Because there are huge bonuses in the Legiones Astartes. Why don't you get points costs affiliated with that? This is a have your cake and eat it too, because this is not a 100-point profile. This is a 30-point profile before you put the war gear on, and the war gear will determine what he should cost. Coming stock with these stats, he can't kill Marines. You need to upgrade him just to have a power weapon. So immediately you're off on the wrong foot in this list. Now, the provenances. There's a few to get through. So the first one I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do these ones from the exemplary battle, because I've been looking at these trying to make them work. And we've got issues. So first, Arms of the Omnissiah. It allows you to upgrade weapons, essentially, to more Mechanicum-themed weapons. But your infantry are just no good using them. You're just relying on the weight of fire. And that is, again, very hard, because some of these weapons are short range, for example. Or things like close combat is a great example. Force Commander taking a corpuscent stave. A corpuscent stave is still going to be a weapon skill 4, or you're going to give him a radium pistol. Do you want to get into a shooting match with Astartes this edition? Something people don't understand is this edition is horrible for being the first person to shoot. Because, yes, you can bait reactions out of people. We've all done it if you played any Heresy 2.0. But in this game, if you shoot and you're not going to kill the other unit, or you're not going to deliver decisive damage to them that justifies your shooting, all you're doing is inviting much deadlier shooting to come back at you. It's very rarely safe to shoot in 2.0, especially if they haven't used their reaction for the turn yet, or if they've got multiple reactions they can perform, because you're just asking to get brutalized. So it's a trick, it's a trap. And talking of the weapons that can shoot you, we're going to take a look in the big book of British Smiles here. This is the Liber Astartes I'm looking into off screen. And I'm going to read for you every weapon that is capable of killing the militia with no recourse. Now, this applies to the Solar Auxiliary as well, and I'm going to cap it at it must be a strength of 6, and it must be an armor penetration of 4. because nothing's going to have better than a 4+ armor save, except under very specific circumstances, and nothing's going to have a toughness higher than 3, again, except under specific circumstances, such as Clanfolk Levy. So, let's begin. So, autocannon, Reaper autocannon, Kiri's assault cannon, Gravis autocannon battery, Predator cannon, Punisher rotary cannon, Accelerator cannon, Fellblade accelerator cannon with high explosive shell, and area effect shell. The Sky Reaper battery, Anvilus autocannon battery, Anvilus snub autocannon, Leviathan storm cannon, Kratos battle cannon with HE shells, AP shells, and flashburn shells. The Demolisher cannon, the Morbus bombard, then the quad launcher with the Shatter shells, the Dreadhammer siege cannon, and the Thunderhawk cannon. The Architect pistol, and that's literally the first page. What else have we got here? The Avenger bolt cannon, combi melter gun, combi plasma gun, obviously, conversion beamers of all flavors and all ranges. The not graviton weapons. Every weapon in the las cannon category. So it's las cannon, gravis las cannon array, arachnus heavy las cannon, laser destroyer, magnet laser destroyer, neutron beam laser, neutron blaster, neutron laser battery, volcano cannon, neutron wave cannon, turbo laser destructor. Flame storm cannon, which is a flamer weapon, and of course any of the salamanders, heavy flamers, and upwards weapons. In melter weapons, it's obviously everything. Melter gun, multi-melter, gravis multi-melter, magnum melter cannon, cyclonic melter lance, siege melter array, melter cutters, melter blast gun. In missiles, we have the missile launcher with crack. We have the missile launcher with flak. We also have the hunter killer missile, the hellstrike missile, Deathstorm missile launcher, rotary missile launcher, sailor missile, tempest rocket, Aeolus missile launcher, Boreas air defense missile, Spicular rocket system, Arcus missile launcher with Arcus warheads, Sky Spear warheads, and Neutron Flux warheads, which are actually really good, the Neutron Flux warheads, against pretty much everything with that heavy 4 breaching. Cyclone missile launcher in crack and flak, the Scorpius missile launcher, the macro bomb cluster. It keeps going. In plasma weapons, it's again everything. So plasma pistol, plasma gun, plasma cannon, gravis plasma cannon, plasma blaster, execution plasma destroyer, hellfire plasma carronade, in sustained fire and maximal fire, omega plasma array in sustained fire and maximal fire. In Volkites, which are some of the scariest weapons as militia, we only have 2 because of the low AP value. Now the I should say the high AP value. And special note here. In Volkite weapons, they're scary because most of the units in your army, except Grenadier, is going to be 5+ armor saves. So normally, Volkites of all kinds are terrifying. But because I made my criteria at the start 4+, it removes most Volkite weapons. But the thing that makes Volkite scary to 5+ armor saves is every hit that becomes a wound becomes an extra wound. Because there's nothing you can do to stop it. Which means that you suffer, if a 10-man squad shoots Volkites at you from Marines, they'll cause on average 54 casualties. 54 casualties. You let that sink in. That's pretty much any unit you can possibly field instantly wiped out from one round of shooting. But, in any case, I limited it to AP4 or better. So the Volkite Carronade is the only weapon here. At Strength 8, AP3, Heavy 1, Heavy Beam, deflag rate. Then Phosphex weapons, and none of them will instantly kill you. Isn't that good news? Same with rad weapons, but the Les Cutter, of course, in exotic weapons will instantly kill you. Then we get to close combat weapons. Now, again, you're probably going to face Astartes. So, average Astartes is strength of 4, so we're going to use that to work this out. Heavy Chainsword, Chain Fist, Gravis Chain Fist. Then we've got the Charnable Tabar. Force weapons of all varieties because of the Force rule. In power weapons, the Power Maul, and especially the Ether Shock Maul. So, Ether Shock Mauls on Nullificators, if you get into combat with those, they will just erase any unit in Militia. in a turn. The Power Fist, the Gravis Power Fist, the Thunder Hammer, the Lightning Claw. It goes on. The Servo Arm, the Las Cutter, Melter Bomb, Leviathan Siege Claw, Leviathan Siege Drill. So, all in all, there's probably only about 20% of all weapons in the Astartes lineup alone, let alone Mechanicum, let alone anything else, only about 20% of the weapons that won't just instantly kill anything you take. So you do not want to be trying to upgrade your basic infantry in this game to have weapons that are slightly better, unless the weapons you're upgrading them to happen to be AP3 or preferably AP2. If they're not either of those things consistently and reliably, you are just inviting return fire, which can erase units up to 50 strong. Really, really need to, put this in now. Anyway, back to the provenances of war. We have the augmented levy. So we get +1 to the leadership of the squad, gain stubborn, gain the right of pure thought, special rules. This is useful for those big squads of militia if you want them to hang around just that tiny bit more, because now you're going to have a pretty consistent leadership of 7, which means you will only fail half of the leadership tests you are required to make. Yay. Not a great improvement. And not enough of an improvement. Last edition, morale was so easy in all armies to get good levels of, morale almost didn't factor into the game. In 2.0, morale is just crucially bad across the board outside of the Astartes, because the Astartes have good ways still of bumping it up. So you're taking augmented levy basically for buffing morale. But it then gives you these criteria, like you can't have more infantry units except HQs of other types than you have Imperialis Militia Levy squads. So now it's forcing you to take lots of the basic bitch militia levies, which again, super easy to kill. They have no toughness bonuses here or anything like that. So these are units that you can kill. Only requirement is strength 6 AP 5 to instantly kill them. No feel, no pain, no nothing, do not pass go. Huge problem. The provenance also is highly restricted, because all the ones you might want to tee it up with, you can't. So, it fights against you. You go, well, this might be good if I took it in conjunction with, no, the riders tied my hands. I'm unable to combine them. Really sucks. Then you got the Forge Remnants, which allows you to take some Mechanicum vehicles in your regular militia army. And you get extra heavy support choices to do this. But it turns them into third line units and reduces their ballistic skill. At that point, Krios tanks are not so good that I want to take them all the time. I may get 3 extra heavy support choices that I can fill with Krios, but and only Krios, but Krios are not that great this edition. They're perfectly fine, they're like a Predator tank. They're a middle of the road. They're okay, Then the Venator especially has fallen from grace compared to last edition. If I'm going to take them, I'd rather spend the points on Lehman Russ tanks for reasons that I'll get to, but I can just ally them in. I can take, a Magos, 3 Thalax, and a Krios as an allied detachment, or a Krios squadron as an allied detachment, and they'll have the higher ballistic skill, so I can get my money's worth out of them, and they won't be third line, so easily penetrated with those big long side arcs, because they're very long, narrow vehicles. I just think there is nothing to be gained from any of these provenances, therefore. They're just a trap, and this one, which might have had the potential to be good, the Augmented Levy, is just let down by just so many different provenances it can't sync up with, which are the exact ones you would want to put it with. Back to the main provenances. Warrior Elite. This one you will see a lot of use from. I myself use this one in my lists, not because of the +1 leadership characteristic. That's neither here nor there, right? Maxes out at 9 anyway, which is, why not 10? You would need to put so many morale buffs on this army that is so hard to do. You're never going to get to 9 in the first place, let alone to 10, but whatever. That's not why you take it, though. You take it because the Imperialist Militia Grenadier squads lose the support squad rules. They become line scoring basic troops choices. This is fantastic when you want to run a small elite army and not paint 80 militia levies, for example. That's why you take the Warrior Elite. The Legacy of the Great Crusade. This one gives your guys an increase in their ballistic skill, but to a maximum of 4. Yay, you're on par with the most basic units in the Legiones Astartes. It's not great. It's basically all that it's giving you, and it's only affecting Grenadiers, Command Cadres, and Discipline Masters, so a super narrow band of the army is getting this increase. If this was army-wide ballistic skill going to 4, that would be pretty interesting, but only to 4 on these units, and never more than that. An initiative of 5 on a force commander who is still only weapon skill 4, not great. The Clan Folk Levy, another one that's giving us a leadership characteristic buff, and this should be setting off the warning bells, I think. We're now up to 3 provenances in a row which have had to give leadership buffs. What is that saying if you've got to keep doing it? That your leadership is probably too low to begin with, and you're constantly going for cope. You're trying to cope with the fact that your leadership is terrible. I just don't think it's worth it. So ignore that. The leadership characteristic kind of sucks. And of course, all of the stuff around like cavalry and things like that. And just, yeah. In addition, you get an extra fast attack choice, but they can only be used to select cavalry squads, which are not good. They seem like they'd be a really fun meme list, but they're performance-wise just bad. Then we've got Gene Crafted. Now, Gene Crafted, once you deploy all of your models, you get to roll for each unit in your army. So there's a lot of bookkeeping with this one because you can take a lot of units. D6 roll. You begin the battle pinned. If you're embarked on transport, you immediately disembark and then you're pinned. So you've paid for this ability, your provenance, to buff your army, and it gave you a bunch of cowards. You've actually lost points by starting the game with miniatures that are worse. Why? Because 1 in 6 of your rolls is going to be like this, and if you're taking this, you're probably taking it on a bulk infantry army, which means you're probably going to have more than 6 units, which means the likelihood is pretty high that one of them is going to be pinned and get no benefit from taking this. So you've used half of the possible buffs you can get in your army and thrown it out of the window. Wow, what great rules writing. Do Imperial Fists suffer something like that, where you roll a d6 every time they go to shoot their +1 to hit bolt guns and just randomly they shoot themselves in the head? No, of course not, because they're Astartes and they're definitely not a favoured faction of the Riders. So you see my problems here. 2 to 5, your eligible models gain one of the following special rules. Fleet, bracket 2, move through cover, or night vision. Well, the night vision is neat, but what units are you going to put it on? Well, you want it on your long-range heavy firepower. But then that same long-range heavy firepower also has a chance of being pinned. So you can't rely on that night vision coming through, can you, from this? The Fleet 2, or move through cover, I'd probably just take the Fleet 2, the move through cover thing. If you're going through a lot of cover with Militia, you've got other problems because you're slower than other factions are, and a lot of the abilities that give you, say, difficult terrain also give dangerous terrain, which is very dangerous to Militia because not a lot you can do to mitigate the damage. So no real buffs in there, and what there is very, very soft and hard to pick. At least you get a choice, right? And then on 6, all eligible models in the unit with the infantry or cavalry type gain one of the following special rules, selected by a controlling player for the duration of the battle. Relentless, Stubborn, Adamantium Will, 6+, or all the special rules presented for result 2 to 5. Now, this is sort of the pick of the crop. The Stubborn, well, there are other provenances that will give it to you, which are better. Really, you would just take the Fleet, Move Through Cover, and Night Vision combined. That's probably the best one that you can hope for here. The Relentless is pretty useless to you because any unit that's got, artillery or las cannons, something like that, you're keeping it at the back anyway. The Stubborn, cool, your leadership 6. And that's if your sergeant is alive. If he's dead, your leadership 5. Adamantium Will 6+. The writers have a hard-on for writing in 6+ saves. They fucking love it, and they're fucking trash. Again, these writers mustn't play the game, because how often has a clutch 6+ save come through for you? Yes, I know someone's going to be like, well, there was one match I played, and I rolled 8 6s in a row. Yeah, nobody cares for your cool story, bro. Add that you found $50 and found a dragon and sell it to someone. The point is, 6+ saves, it's a 1 in 6 chance, right? It's just so rare that these things come through for you. And when it's up against like a psychic power, you might not get it all game, and then one time it affects you and you might get that clutch 6+ against it. But really, what is the likelihood of it? It's too small. It needs to be better. It needs to be a 5+, not a 6+. They do the same thing with Feel No Pain all the time. They do it with cover saves all the time. 6+ is just not worth it. Make it a 5+. And if you're so afraid that someone's going to stack other rules on top of it to make it better and get it down to like a 2+, just hard cap it and say to a maximum of 5+. That's it. That's all you've got to do. 6+ is just dog crap, and I don't know why they keep doing it. The only time a 6+ is acceptable to me is when it's attacks that are rending, because generally you have a lot of attacks that are rending, and so the odds start to come into your favour. Whereas a 6+ Adamantium Will, where it's like you get to throw 1 dice 1 time at 1 psychic power once per game sort of thing. Come on, how many stars, planets, and moons are lining up? I hate 6+. Like, pet peeve, if you write a rules, don't do that. Cyber Augmetics. Feel No Pain 6+. What the fuck did I just say about 6+? It's slow and purposeful. Slow and purposeful is awful. Always has been. It's badly written rule. We understand why it exists, but the buffs that it gives you do not mitigate the detractions that it gives you. The only time you want it is basically for heavy weapons, and if you can get Relentless instead. It's just better. So ignore that. And can not be chosen in conjunction with Gene Crafted. So again, I hate these things. It's like, why can't you have a Gene Crafted mutant with Cyber Augmetics? That sounds really cool to me. But yeah, you can't do it. And you get Mechanicum becomes Swarm Brothers, which is like, whatever. Fine. Alchem Jackers. Oh, cool. You get to shoot up drugs here. And if less than half the moles in the unit have been removed as casualties in the shooting phase and you fail, you become pinned instead of falling back when you make a morale check and you fail it. Like, oh, goody. Glad I took all those combat drugs. Like, chances are, yeah, you're going to fail those morale checks, and it's going to be so easy to make you fail morale, it's almost worth just falling back. Being pinned is not great. You're losing reactions, you snap firing, you're not doing anything next turn. It's no better than just falling back, except for the fact you might not run off the table. Then you have the option of adding friends on, so actual drugs, which, again, it's almost a half measure, the Alchem Jackers. They should have added more drugs in here, right? Not just friends on, because you get Furious Charge 1 for 25 points per unit. So this is trying to encourage you to be like a close combat army. The problem is your average weapon skill is 3. It's 3 even up to and including elite units. So are you going to have this used in your army with this special rule, and you're going to rely on units that hit Marines, which are going to be the majority of the players you face? That's why I like to use Marines. That's the standard in Horus Heresy. You're going to hit them on 5s. So is the +1 strength you get, assuming that you charged the Marines, which are the faster units in the faster army, you somehow got the charge on them, and assuming they don't just, charge you and with the second unit and cause you to auto-route, because remember that rule, you're going to try and hit them with your 5s to hit and 4s now to wound because of your +1 strength. I don't think we improve the odds enough here to make this a viable tactic. You simply don't have the numbers to do this as a tactic either, because you might think, oh, but if I'm charging 20-man militia squads into, 10 Astartes, I might have enough attacks to do some damage.
Yeah, you might, but those Astartes can just give you 1 Fury of the Legion, 1 decent rapid fire, and they're going to knock most of your 20 strength off straight away. And then they're going to be hitting you on 3s in close combat, you're going to be hitting them on 5s, you're going to wound them on 4s, they're going to wound you on 3s, they're going to get a 3-up armor save, you're going to get a 5-up armor save. You do the maths, you die so easy, so quickly. Survivors of the Dark Age is the next one, on the top right here. So your Militia Grenadier and Militia Command Cadres, you can take a Rhino, you can take a Termite, or you can take a Land Raider Proteus as your dedicated transport if you number 10 models or less. Seems really strange to me though, when those vehicles can transport 12 models this edition. Oh, we paid good attention over here at, whoever wrote this, Forge World's gone, so I guess Games Workshop. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But it gets better, because they lose the Legiones Astartes, which is fine, become third line, Land Raiders, that newly introduced vehicle that everyone wants to get their hands on, the Horus Heresy, they become third line. So they're already being retired from surface, and reduce their ballistic skill to 3. Oh goody. I do have a Land Raider I've almost finished sculpting too, that I'll put up on Cult soon, for those who are curious. Because this is one of the better ones that you can take. If you're taking Survivors of the Dark Age, and you take something like Warrior Elite, you can do some cool sort of combos here. It's not all trash. You can also take Void Jumpers, which is essentially militia jetpacks, which are not great. Can't use them in Zone Mortalis, by the way. You replace your shotgun with 2 las pistols and 2 auto pistols. You don't want to do this. The shotgun is the best weapon the infantry can take in this army, because at least you can concuss units and bring their weapon skill down and give you a fighting chance in close combat. Yeah, the Void Jumpers, man, just don't do it. Don't fall for the trap of Militia, which is thinking that you can compete on an even field with Astartes. You cannot. Armory of the Old Knight. All models in this detachment with this provenance may upgrade their las guns to las rifles for no additional cost. This one is kind of one of the better ones, and that's because at least las rifles hit just that bit harder, that bit longer range. It's still nothing to write home about. It just tells you how bad so many of these are. Your eligible models also get Relic Arms, which is your Grenadiers, and your Militia Command Cadres, which is where you can get Volkite Chargers or Assault Needlers, because, Halo. Or you can upgrade las pistols to Volkite Serpentor or Needle pistols. Cost 30 points per unit regardless of the number of models, in which case I say to you, max out. This is really good, especially with Warrior Elite, because taking a ton of Grenadiers with Volkite Chargers is actually a viable tactic, and it is actually a situation where you can start to get into a shooting match with Marines and hope to do okay. Partly because you have better armor saves on Grenadiers, partly because Volkites actually wound Marines on 3s and they've got deflag rate. So if you have enough of them, it is doable. But those are such specific criteria. Then Heirlooms of Past Glory. A Force Commander in the detachment, Providence, may exchange a power weapon for a Paragon Blade for 10 points or a las pistol for an Architect pistol. I mean, if you're taking this Providence, you may as well do it, because they're better weapons than what he's got. But, of course, the trap is that you may be tempted into using them, and the only combat you want a Force Commander fighting is against something like a tactical squad or an artillery crew. Feral Warriors. You get +1 to your weapon skill for the duration of any player turn in which you make a charge. However, an eligible unit that begins controlling players' assault phase within 12 inches of one or more enemies must have a charge declared for it, which means people might get a free Overwatch against you, despite you knowing that you can't possibly make the charge distance. And because it requires you, the slower army, to make the successful charge, that means it's harder to get the +1 weapon skill. And it only relies on, you only get it that turn, and of course it's only going to take you up to the level of the most basic bitch in the Astartes. So a lot of things have to go right for you here. And you can take chain axes, but you have to pay for it not by unit, but by per model. 2 points per model. This adds up very, 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 very quickly, army-wide. Because you think about it, you take 100 militia,
you're now going to have to pay for 200 points just for the chain axes. Brutally expensive. Then we get to Kinfolk Helots. All eligible models get +1 to their toughness, but lower their initiative and movement characteristics by -1, so you're down to movement 5 average, and initiative 2 average. But the +1 toughness is really good, and the Battlesmith 6+ rule, if you've got it, you go to Battlesmith 5+, and all your characters are going to get Battlesmith 6+. So not a bad choice if you're taking bulk tanks, because you can load up infantry squads beside the tanks and have multiple chances at trying to repair them. Of course, again, I hate 6+. 6+ is very unlikely to go off. It should be you get Battlesmith 5+, and it goes to a 4+ if you're already a Battlesmith. Because, again, you're fishing for it. You need to roll it 6 times per turn for it to go off once, on average. Again, there's an element of chance to this game, but we have to work with averages because that's our best indication of what's going to occur before we roll those dice. And you can't use it in conjunction with Ogre and Conscripts Province, which we're getting to. The Abhuman Muster, you get +1 strength, but you lower your ballistic skill by -1. I mean, yeah, if you're going to be in combat, But again, the sort of forces you want to use it with, like Ogrins, you can't take it. So, yay. Isn't that great? Your character units get Hammer of Wrath 1. Trust me, you don't care. You're going to forget it on squad sergeants and stuff. So, kind of pointless. If you're independent character special rule or monstrous subtype, you gain the Hammer of Wrath 2 rule instead. You'll always forget it, and this just isn't doing enough for you. So, why? Debased Rabble. All eligible units in the Provenance gain Crusader and Hatred Everything special rules. And this is a trader-only one, by the way. Must always charge an enemy if you're able to. Not great, because that's I'm within charge range, 12 inches, I have to have a crack at it. That's basically it. So, problems. We get problems here. Imperialis Militia Grenadier squads may not be taken into this Provenance, and they're your best infantry. So you're restricted now to really bad infantry, but hey, at least they have Crusader and Hatred. So, re-rolling those to hits on a charge or first round of combat. Cool. Tainted Flesh, another trader one. This one's meant to represent your Nurgle zombies. Get Fear 1, Furious Charge 1. I don't know why Furious Charge 1. You're Tainted Flesh. It should be something like Battle Hardened. That would be a really, really cool use of Battle Hardened. It's a rule that hardly anything has in this edition, a new special rule they introduced this edition, and it would make a lot of sense, because it's okay, now autocannons and stuff can't kill you instantly. You're not a true toughness high, you're not toughness 4, so you're not taking over the territory of the Not Dwarfs Provenance. And instead, that's not what you get. You get Furious Charge for the Nurgle Zombies type 1. Okay, whatever. But you get Fear 1, and you basically have to load up on Militia Levy squads, which you don't really want. You get maxed out on the amount of squads you can take. You lose a lot of options, and you can't combine it with a ton of different provinces. Survivors of the Dark Age, Gene Crafted, Open Conscripts, Alchem Jackers, which are all ones that would work well with it. And this is a constant theme you see throughout. Ogre Conscripts, pretty simple. Ogrins become your basic troops choices as an option, but so many of the provenances get locked away from you if you do that, the ones you want. Then Industrial Stronghold. So Industrial Stronghold, if I was to put these from S through to E tier, Industrial Stronghold is an S tier, and nothing else in here is getting above a B tier. That's how good Industrial Stronghold is compared to everything else. Why is it so good, you ask? Because it turns your single Leman Russ tanks, because that's what this army has. You take a single Leman Russ for a single heavy support choice, it turns them into squadrons of up to 6 Leman Russes, and on top of that, it gives you 2 additional heavy support choices. Now, those 2 heavy supports must be filled with Leman Russes.
They don't say anything about having to put Lehman Russes into the other 3, so you can do something with the other 3 heavy support choices. And if you really wanted, for some reason, you could actually combine it with the Forge Remnants. So Forge Remnants and Industrial Stronghold go really well together, because you can actually take up to 8 heavy support choices. 3 of them with whatever you want, 3 of them with Krios tanks, and 2 of them with Lehman Russes. And as to the Lehman Russes, 120 points each. That is amazingly cheap. That is the cost of a Predator tank, essentially, for a Lehman Russ. And the ones you can't take it with, who cares? I can't take it with Ogrins, who cares? Can't take it with Tainted Flesh, who cares? It's really good. You've got the Unending Horde, which is when your units die, you roll a 4+. This only affects your crappiest, most useless infantry, by the way. And they get the Endless Horde special rule, which means you basically just roll a d6 when they die, and they can come back on the battlefield, or no victory points are granted, blah, blah, blah. It kind of sucks. Alright, so then we go into our units. All of our units are bad. Rogue Psychers, I mean, are like, oh yeah, it sounds like it might be good, getting Psychic powers, your leadership 7, therefore they suck, and half the time they don't go off. They're not reliable. Not reliable is exactly that. It's not reliable, it's bad. Scroll down through the units. Troops here. So, Imperialis Militia Infantry Squads. Your most basic dudes. It's 20 models. You're slow, you've got no armor, you've got poor leadership, poor attacks, and upgrades are expensive. 5 points. Right? 5 points to give your sergeant a chainsword. That hurts. It really does. Shotguns, 5 points per unit. And you're like, okay, 5 points per unit, that's not too bad. 1 model may take a special weapon. One is breaking the bank, you know. Two would be just so bad for the game. It would be unhealthy for the game to take 2 special weapons in a squad. We aren't Astartes. What do you mean that they can take 4 in a 20-man squad? 4 special weapons that include things like, Thunderhammers, for example, is quite a common one that's 1 per 5 in Astartes units. No. We draw the line at 1 long las or sniper rifle. Like, seriously? Seriously. It's just bad. It's 10 points for a Vexilia for that +1 resolution in close combat. Like, really? Like, what are you doing to us? Not great. Militia levies, you can get a lot of them. You can take squads of 50 guys, okay? 2 points a model. Great. It's 100 points to throw 50 bodies on the battlefield. And it seems like, if I take 6 squads of this as troops, there is no way that anyone will be able to survive that assault, because that's 300 models. Yeah, here's what's crazy, right, is a Volkite heavy support squad of Astartes, 10 models, will kill a guaranteed kill. Even with bad rolling, will guaranteed kill 1 squad of these per turn. But also, you're not fearless or anything like that, and you can be pinned, you can be hurt, especially in night fight, because we don't have to kill many models. Bolt guns will kill these guys with no armor saves. But we need to charge you with 2 units, and the chances are you're going to fail morale checks. And then just get instantly run down and wiped out off the battlefield because of the way the rules work. So awful units. Again, not written understanding the game. Like, Night Fight is a killer to Imperialis Militia, because Night Fight effectively makes most of your army ballistic skill 2, or in the case of levies, ballistic skill 1. And this is the sort of unit that you're thinking like, oh, I'd love to get like +1 weapon skill and chainswords and friends on. But then you look at the stats, you're like, even if you got like a weapon skill increase of +1, you're still hitting Marines on 5s. That's how bad you are. Like, it's just, it seems like really good. You have strength in numbers, they're expendable. Nah. Nah. It's bad. It's really bad. And the way the expendable works, it does not fall back. Instead, all models in the unit are removed from players' casualties immediately if you fail a morale check. Leadership 6 before modifiers. Do the math. Imperialis Militia Grenadier Squad. So this is really your troops choice. So this is why I say Warrior Elite is so important, because if you can get rid of that support squad rule, you actually have a semi-decent troops choice here. Why? 4+ armor saves, base leadership 7, on the sergeant, 6 on the squad's not bad. If you're taking Warrior Elite, you're going to go to 8 and 7. Alright, you're at Astartes levels now. Ballistic skill 3 is not great, but it's also not ballistic skill 2. So that's a start. And you've got access to some kind of okay weapons in here. Specifically, you've got things like Nuncio Vox, which is handy to have. And you've got the shotgun, which is free. It's not a upgrade for the squad like in other units. It's free. And definitely the one to take. The bolt gun is, again, it's a trap. It's a trap. You are adding 30% more points to the cost of a single grenadier taking that thing. If you're going to do anything, it's shotguns, or you're going to take Volkites if you're taking that Survivors of the Dark Age. So, just run in the back of your mind, that's what you're going to do. And up to 2 Grenadiers, hallelujah, even though you can take 20, it should be up to 4, can take one of these weapons as well. Which, again, a pair of melter guns is not a terrible idea in a 20-man squad of Grenadiers, if you can swing it. The Imperialis Militia Fire Support Squad. Now, here's again where we fall into the writers of the game are idiots who don't play the game. Oh, no, don't, Mac, you can't say that. You might hurt their feelings. I don't care, and they don't care, because if they cared, they wouldn't have published it. This team is going to give you, for 60 points, 3 guys who are armed with a mortar, a heavy bolter, a multi-laser, a missile launcher, an autocannon, or a las cannon. Obviously, the las cannon and the mortar are the 2 best picks. Mortars, because you can put them out of line of sight. Las cannons, because they're freaking las cannons, right? But let's just say you want to take the las cannon option. That makes you a 20 plus 15, so 35-point model, who has a 5+ save, leadership 6, and 2 wounds. For the same sort of... and here's another one. Your reactions, you're limited on the amount of reactions, and if you fall back for any reason, you just immediately removed as casualties. So don't ever fail your leadership of 6. But think how much it costs for a Space Marine with a las cannon. And he is going to, have 1 less wound, but he's going to be higher in every single other stat just about. He's going to have more weapon skill, more ballistic skill, more strength, more toughness, higher initiative, higher leadership. He's going to have a 3+ save with the heavy special rules, so he's going to get to reroll his armor. He's going to have an augury scanner, right? He's a heavy support choice, but hey, this is a support squad, and they're in place, so these guys aren't moving around the battlefield, I mean, they are, but very, very slowly at movement 4 and snap firing like you want to move them. So these guys are 30% more points than a Space Marine, who has the same firepower and is better in every single stat except for wounds. And these guys are toughness 3, so instant kill by strength of 6, which, as I read out to you earlier in this video, is most of the weapons in the game. So this is another trap unit. This is a unit that you think, I could take 10 las cannons. You go ahead, you do that. You take 10 las cannons, that is a 350-point squad. And it's a support squad. So you're going to take these squads as all of your non-compulsory troops choices. Fill those 4 slots with las cannons. Well, you're going to spend 1,400 points doing it. And it would take... let's see, it would take something like an Imperial Fist Punisher tank, 4 turns to kill every single one of them, at most, because, the assault cannon sponsons everywhere. That's a terrifying unit if you're playing Militia. Militia Recon Squad, okay, support squad, of course they are. Ballistic skill is only 3, but up to 5 models per unit can exchange their shotguns, las carbines, or stub carbines for sniper rifles. They're not as good as Nemesis sniper rifles, but they're okay. But again, the problem here is how many points do you want to pay? Because you now go up to 15 points per model, so you're now more expensive than a Space Marine. Yeah, and you'll die to bolt guns. No saves. Medics, what do I say about 6+? 6+ feel no pains.
useless, and they do not stack. Do not stack. Feel no pain X. So, dog shit. Militia Ogrins. So Militia Ogrins are, like the Grenadiers, another sort of bright spot in the list. Because the Militia Ogrins, you have at least weapon skill 4, strength toughness 5, you're slower than Marines, but you can strike kind of on a Marines level. A bit of the trap here is the weapons. Because they look like they might be able to do so much. No, it's boarding shields. It's just boarding shields. You take boarding shields, improves the survivability immensely on the unit, whereas the Thunder Stubs, the Ripper Guns, they're pointless. And taking the basic close combat weapon, yeah, you get more attacks, but you don't have the survivability to get those attacks off because you've got to get across the battlefield and things like that. And of course, take a Thunder Hammer on the boss. It's 20 points, but oh, it's so worth it. Don't get baited into shooting with them. Why would you spend the points on a heavy bolter or an autocannon when you're ballistic skill 2? You're not orcs. You don't have weight of fire to make up ballistic skill 2. So, my advice, take a frickin' boarding shield if you're taking Ogrins in bulk. Militia Field Gun Battery. Another one that seems like it should be good on the surface. You get the Heavy Las Cannon, which is really good. The Calliope Mortar, which is not bad. But you're paying so many points for... It shouldn't be that many points, you know. One here with the Las Cannon is 65 points for a 3 wound unit. At least it's toughness 4, but it can still be instant killed by strength 8. And that's just 3 wounds. 65 points at a time, gone. Or 60 points in the case of your additional units, additional models. The Thunder Blast Cannon is useless, and we'll get to the weapons in a little bit. You can take them, just be careful with them. The Arvis is awful, don't ever consider it. The Cargo 8 Hauler is awful. Again, don't ever consider it, because if it explodes, and remember, it's armor 12, 11, 10. If this thing explodes, everyone inside cops a strength 8 hit. Even if you've taken the Provenance that gives you +1 toughness, you can't take a strength 8 hit. So don't fall for the trap of these things. This is flavour, and flavour only works if, like in the context of Militia, flavour only works if there's something to back it up. There is nothing to back it up, okay? Militia Cavalry seem like they're really decent on the surface. They got okay stat line. They're kind of quicker, being movement 14, but they just don't have any hitting power. There is one weapon in here, the Melter Lance, which is really good, but it's one. One you can take on the squad. Everyone else, the best they're going to take is the Militia Lance, which we'll get to later, but it is not enough. And because this squad is only going up to 15 models max, again, 5+ armor save. Unless you want to go to pay the extra points for Carapace, you die very quickly to bolt gunfire. So it's so hard to make them work. Beastmasters, there's one choice, the Cayman. All other choices are terrible because most of the other choices, they don't work with the squad. The squad, if it said militia handlers gain the special rules of whatever joins them, it would work. The problem is you can have fleet on the war beasts. The handlers don't get it, so you can't fleet. You can have Furious Charge. The dogs get it, the handlers don't. You get Rage. The cat has it, they don't. But Feel No Pain 5+ is on the Cayman. Feel No Pain 5+, okay, that's going to go off sometimes. And the Cayman, movement 6, just like the handlers. The others, movement 8. You can't use the movement 8. You have to stay in coherency of the handlers. Alright, Cayman, strength 5, toughness 5, 2 wounds. All this thing's survivable. It's got the highest strength. It's got equal number of attacks with all of them except the Raptor. Has the best armor save. It's backing it with a 5+ Feel No Pain. It's way harder to wound. It hits harder than the others do. How come it's the same? Like it's 5 points more. Like how come it's the same category as all these other things? You get Shrouded 4+ on the Raptor only, which the rest of all the handlers, the dudes you need to keep them in line, don't they don't get the Shrouded. It just none of it makes sense. Badly written unit. Make the handlers gain the movement and special rules of the squad is how you fix this. It's so simple. Why is this not in pink and FAQ'd? Badly written rules. If you're going to take the handlers unit, just take a bunch of Caimans. Even the handlers die. The Caimans are probably... They hit harder than most of the militia do in this army if you upgrade them with 2 provenances. That's how good they are. Militia Sentinels now. Well, with these Sentinels coming for the Solar Auxilia, you might be tempted into taking them. Don't. What are you doing? You've got so much to live for. Nah, they're alright. They're Scout, which is okay. Bulky 5's interesting. They're let down really by the choice of weapons available because they become very expensive. They're discount Dreadnoughts, the Sentinels are, and they're nowhere near as good as a Dreadnought. They probably are about 20 points too expensive for what they're actually bringing to the battlefield. Militia Thunderbolt Fighter, I mean, it's cheaper than the Astartes one, but it's not great. And for anti-tank hunting, there's honestly better stuff, which we're getting to in very short order. Rapiers. Alright, another star player. So, if you're taking heavy support, yes, Rapiers are incredibly viable because laser destroyers are king. The quad launcher, if it had shatter shells, I'd say hell yeah, but with frag shells, don't do it. Just don't. The laser destroyer array gives you a ton of the firepower you need, which is higher than strength 8, AP of 2 or less. So important in this game. You need it everywhere. 25 points, it's worth the cost in this case. The only downside is, why is it only toughness 3 on those militia gunners? Integrate them into the carrier more, give them that higher toughness, but hey, toughness 5, 3+ save, even if it is only boost skill 3, the rapier carrier it's better than most things, and you can take a big squad of them, squads of up to 6. So it makes up for the firepower that you think you had, but you really don't on the lesser squads. Then we get to the Malkador. Now look, if you're not running a industrial stronghold provenance, which gives you multiple Lehman Russ in each slot, you might be tempted into the Malkador because it has more guns, right? It has 1 more hull point, and it's got those little side sponsons. The problem is it's competing with the Lehman Russ. Lehman Russ is 65 points cheaper, and it has more effective weapons. And why is this? Well, this is because this is the S tier unit in the army. And it's all because of one weapon, one single weapon right here. The Vanquisher Battle Cannon. Why is it so good? Well, let's take the Gravis Las Cannon. The Gravis Las Cannon is going to throw out the same number of shots as the Vanquisher. The Vanquisher has more range, it has more damage potential, it gets twin-linked if you fire the coaxial autocannon first. The coaxial autocannon is a whole autocannon, okay? It comes with the basic unit. You can take a Gravis autocannon, so a 3-shot autocannon. Why not pay 5 extra points, lose 1 autocannon shot, but gain 2 Vanquisher shots? On the Malkador, you don't have... Like, you can take a Vanquisher, it's not coaxial. And they've fallen into this trap with the Solar Auxilia. They're releasing this fucking model in plastic, and people are going to want to buy it, because Malkadors are a cool-looking tank. They're going to buy this thing, but the problem is, it has less firepower, until you upgrade those side sponsons, than the Lehman Russ, and it's less accurate firepower. And if you do upgrade the side sponsons, cool, good luck getting things in the arcs, because they have terrible arcs because they're sunk into the sides of the unit. And how many points do you want to pay for them? Because it's expensive. 25 points to get those 2 side las cannons, which is what you want. You know you can't take heavy flamers. They can't kill anything this edition. I dropped 10 salamanders, boosted heavy flamers, and with the Mournival rules, extra buffs on them, onto a couple of Terminators playing Zone Mortalis. Right? These guys had to make a ton of armor saves. They got to re-roll them. 2+ re-rollable armor saves are pretty much unfailable. It's a 1 in 36 chance that you fail an armor save. And if they can stack Feel No Pain on top of that, you definitely don't fail armor saves. Right? So if Salamander's heavy flamers can't kill things, what makes you think militia ones can, which are worse? Right? And of course, Demolisher Cannon. Small Blast. Oh, it's strength 12. It's AP 3. Oh, it seems like it would be really good, Macca. Yeah, it hits 1 model on average. 1. You want to pay 50 points for that? You have to kill
5 tactical marines to break even. And you hit an average 1 a turn. Now, I'm no scientist, but let me do the maths on how many turns that's going to take to rack up. Yeah, and you don't get split fire or anything on these weapons, so you won't be able to get the side weapons to target the front arc, and yeah, Malcadors are useless. Lehman Russ is a king. Yeah, you don't get side spawns in Lehman Russ. Who cares? Take a Vanquisher Battle Cannon. Don't even upgrade the Heavy Bolter on the front of it. Use it just for saturation firepower and to kill other Soul Auxiliary and Militia. Or Mechanicum. There's so much stuff you can kill with Heavy Bolters this edition. Keep the Heavy Bolter on the front. And you can even add another weapon on top. But I wouldn't, because you're wasting points. Don't bother. And you don't even need searchlights. But you can take them if you feel like it. And the Execution of Plasma Cannon is not actually a terrible choice either. Just 25 points is way too expensive when the Vanquisher is this cheap. So cheap. Militia Heavy Ordnance now. You can take Earth Shakers or upgrade them to Medusas. This is the artillery carriage version. You want to max out the amount of guys that are on these crews. These are ablative wounds to keep the things firing. Keep in mind that all the problems that you have with the other weapons teams, like you fall back, you're done for, essentially, on these things. But, of course, Medusas and Basilisks suck this edition because they're large blasts, they're only AP4. The only thing they can kill is your own troops. Okay, yep, you can hit a lot of Astartes with them, but you're fishing for 6+ rending. It just doesn't occur, guys, you know. You got Shred on one, you got Rending on the other. Neither of the two weapons is designed to just kill infantry this edition. The Riders went way too hard in the Astartes. Power armor is like a human tank thing. Yeah, just useless. Don't even bother taking it. You're tempted. I know you're tempted right now because you're looking at all the wounds of 16 additional gunners and strength and toughness 7, the 4 wounds, the fact that it's Basilisks and Medusas, but they just can't get kills. You're paying 65 points of carriage before crew for something that can't get kills, and you're going to go to 90 points a model for each Medusa. It's tempting, but it's the trap. Then the Gorgon. The Gorgon is okay. It's solid. Nothing to write home about. If you're going to up-arm it, las cannons aren't a bad choice. Because las cannons are good against everything. 20 points, it's not the end of the world as far as these things go on points. If you're going to replace the mortar batteries and such, you can go for a full las cannon loadout on the Armour 15 vehicle. And then it's third line. So, I mean, yes, they can pen you. Or glance you to become pens, but it's pretty hard. They still need 6s on las cannons, so it becomes a very reliable, able to shoot in multiple directions with its las cannons, and at 250 points is actually surprisingly cheap. So you're only paying, I think, 65 points more than a Malcador for this thing. So, you know, not a bad choice. In heavy support, and it can transport a ton of guys, so pretty good to put if you've got the Grenadiers, who are all armed with Volkites. You put a big squad of those Grenadiers inside this, and when the enemy does get close enough to start threatening you, jump out those Grenadiers and hose them with 20 sets of Volkites, and enjoy. The Baneblade, don't do it. They're just one of the worst super heavies this edition. Even at 400 points, that is still probably 400 points too many. Because you just can't kill anything. Neither the turret-mounted Baneblade cannon or the hull demolisher cannon, which we're of course getting to. And let's just get down to that. So the Vanquisher that I was talking about before, 72 inches, heavy 2 with Sunder Brutal 2. That's a 5-point weapon upgrade. Over the Battle Cannon, which is above it, which is Blast 3 inches pinning, Strength 8 AP4 Heavy 1. So on average hits 1 model. The Vanquisher on average, thanks to the coaxial weapon, hits an average of 2 models and pretty much guaranteed to kill them because it's Brutal 2. And it's Strength 9 and AP 2s. They rarely get a save. In fact, they never get a save, they only get an invul. This thing I've hosed Terminators with. I took 6 Vanquishers 6 Vanquisher Russes and 2 autocannon Russes. 2 autocannon Russes performed awfully at this event, but the Vanquishers, just 2 of them alone could hose a Dreadnought in a turn. It was amazing to see, because, you know, with some bad rolling on behalf of the Dreadnought player, 2 squadrons of 2 was like, cool, take 8 wounds, because that brutal 2. The big thing here is, like, we're going to be faced with the choice as players in a few months' time to buy into Solar Auxilia and Militia. And this video is primarily about Militia and Militia-related problems. But because they apply to the Solar Auxilia, we end up in a really weird place here. This place being that, you know, people who have 0 willpower are going to go out and go, my God, I love Malcadors and Dracosans. I've got to buy this Solar Auxilia. I don't have any willpower, and I just have to buy it. But you're going to buy something that's probably going to be unrewarding. Okay, because the writers have written really bad rules for both the factions, and they have no intent to fix them. Okay, and this is a fundamental problem right now. So we need to fix this either by encouraging the writers politely, you know, for all of you who are able to affect change, do so politely, you know, no threats, anything like that. Encourage them to write better rules, maybe even to try and play the game. Because they mustn't play the game if they've written these rules, is the only conclusion I can come to. And my advice to you is that if you do want to run these sort of lists, Solar Auxilia or Militia, there is one rule. It is the king of all rules. Take the Leman Russ. Take the Leman Russ with the Vanquisher. That is the rule, the only rule that you ever have to follow. Take only Leman Russes with Vanquishers. Take the minimum of everything else you can in the army. If you can fill up on Leman Russ with Vanquishers, you can actually perform and win games. You might even be overpowered in a few of those games. But if you're taking anything else in those lists, just be advised, you are setting yourself up for punishment, because I ran out a list to you before of just the Astartes weapons alone that instantly kill and allow no armor saves to both Solar Auxilia and Militia. Strength 6, AP 4. And that list was something like 70 to 80% of all the weapons in the game. So think about that, right? You're going to paint up hundreds of infantry to make these armies work the way you want them to work, the way that the fluff tells you they work, the way all the artwork shows you, and it does not work that way. And it's not false advertising, but it's, if you have that in your mind, it's kind of depressing to go through the financial expense and through the trials and tribulations of building it all and painting it all, only to have that feeling of, oh, this is going to be so fun to run the battlefield, I'm going to get to shoot hundreds of shots a turn, only for that to not be the case. Okay, only for you to fire your first squad and then for the whole squad to just be annihilated in the return fire reaction. You're going to like, oh, that did not go as planned. Oh, maybe I'll fire my artillery and then the smoke clears and no casualties were caused, and oh, that did not go to plan. Maybe I'll charge my 50-man militia squad into that 10-man Astartes squad. I lost the combat, but I charged with that many models. This is the problem, right? Anyway, that's it. I've had enough talking about this. It's not that militia don't work, it's just that they're freaking hard to make work. And Militia and Solar Aux, they're almost the same faction. Solar Aux are Militia with a couple of provenances, essentially, and you pretty much get Solar Auxilia. They're bad factions written badly by writers who mustn't play the game, or if they do, they are just so hard for Astartes that they won't write decent rules for anything else. And this to me is a problem. But anyway, I want to hear from you. Are you playing these armies, and have you experienced these things? And do you think I'm completely wrong? I'd be very interested to hear your logic if you think I'm completely wrong, because I have played these armies and I have play tested it, and I've played events with these, and I'm still committed to making more armies of Militia and trying different things. It's just some things that I can't make work. And in fact, there'll be another one of these videos coming shortly down the line, talking about the Emperor's Children and their corrupted Emperor's Children subtype, which is, oh boy, is that a big load of cannot be made to possibly work on any planet. But yeah, that's it. This is the Imperialist Militia problem, and I'm Mac with the Earth Circle, and I'll see you on the next video.